Hello, Dr. David Kaiser again with Scottish Revival 1830 course. Back in Irving's day in the 1830s in Britain, the consciousness of the British people was that they were a Christian nation. And I was reminded of this some years ago when I had the privilege, my wife and I, of attending in Edinburgh a ceremony where the Queen made 3 men and a woman knights of the realm. Now, when it's a man, say his name is John Smith, then he'd be referred to after he's knighted as Sir John. Whereas a lord, which is above a knight whose name was John Smith, he'd be referred to, for instance, as Lord Smith. So the Sir title, which means they're a knight, attaches to the first name. If it's a woman who is so honored, and these people are honored for service to their country, which is Scotland, which is part of the United Kingdom, she is referred to as Dame. So if her name was Alice Johnson, she'd be referred to as Dame Alice. So we got tickets to an investiture. My wife heard about it. And we went to the big church in Edinburgh that under Catholic rule had been a cathedral. It's now called the High Kirk. And the Queen came in and invested these people with their titles of Sir or Dame for their service. And it was all handled very quietly. You had to have a ticket. You were told, or my wife was told, that she had to have a hat and gloves because that was appropriate to be in Her Majesty's presence. And you were sniffed going in, as was everything else, by dogs looking for anything explosive. You were told that once you were seated after the Queen entered, you could not stand or leave the room for any reason, so be prepared to stay for such and such amount of time. You were told that if she's standing, everyone is standing, and if she is sitting, everyone is sitting. So they got us Americans, which were an appreciable amount of the audience, filled in on British things. And in order to receive this honor, whatever area they did their work in, they had to swear allegiance to the Christian faith and the British crown. Now that's what got my attention, because our ancestors came to America to be free from the British, and yet America is a republic with freedom of religion. There are no state religions, and you don't have to swear when you're sworn in as a Christian, as a citizen, that you are a Christian or that you even believe in God or the Christian faith. And that's the difference between a kingdom and a republic. If a kingdom has a monarch, and the tradition is to believe in a certain religion, then you are expected to be faithful to that religion. Of course, there's an upside and a downside to that. But we learned about the conscious realization of Christianity among the British people. Now, in Irving's day, it was even stronger in the 1830s. And so anything religious, anything about a revival, anything about something that might be exciting was readily printed in the secular press. And so one of the guides that I had in studying Irving and the manifestations that accompanied his preaching and his services was that he wrote an article in 3 sections called Facts About the Recent Manifestations, and Fraser's Magazine published it in sections 1, 2, and 3, and that is preserved in 1832 newspaper in the libraries of the universities where I was studying. And this paper was really handy. If you wanted to know what happened when, according to the founder of the movement, the person that as he would say, was used by God to do this, then you had it in his own writing. And that's called Facts 1, 2, and 3. So as we get into talking about the facts as recorded by Irving and reading them instead of my articles on the revival, my parts of chapters of the theses on the revival, then we're getting it straight from, quote, the horse's mouth. So what I've done here is I have included in each of the facts lessons the appropriate 1, 2, or 3 parts of Irving's as a free PDF download for the students. Now, that is not to be confused with the books that I have that are being sold as a paid download on the site. The facts paper by Irving is free. The books, 3 of them, are for sale as an electronic book, an ebook download for either Great Scott, which is the story of Edward Irving, or Pentecost 1830, which is the story of the revival, or A Man Approved of God, which is an account of the humanity of Jesus and how that fits in with the power of the Holy Spirit in his ministry during those 33 years he was here, and in the ministry of subsequent Christian believers who are led and empowered by the same Holy Spirit. Now, you can buy those books separately, the smaller ones for $3 for a download, or you can just buy the what I call omnibus of Scottish Revival that contains all 3 of them as a download for $8. And they're available at various places in the course. But by all means, download the free facts articles 1, 2, and 3. So you'll have them in Irving's own words. And it's very helpful. The first one talks about the beginning of the revival. Part 2 talks about the particular spiritual gifts as found in 1 Corinthians 12. It's the longest part. And the last part is about as the revival moved on, not the end of it, because Edward Irving died before the end of that revival. So have fun and enjoy.